We like to think of World War as a historical relic, something defined by static lines and 20th century maps. But as we stand in 2026, a more fractured, terrifying reality has emerged. We aren't facing a single war between two sides. We're witnessing a planet in a state of fragmented global conflict. The theme of our era is simple and devastating: the world at war with itself. As of early 2026, the Council on Foreign Relations and the Uppsala Conflict Data Program report that we are navigating the highest number of active armed conflicts since the end of World War II. From the high-tech trenches of Eastern Europe to the scorched urban centers of the Middle East and the forgotten jungles of Myanmar, the machinery of death is running at peak. How many deadly conflicts are happening right now? According to the latest data from the Global Peace Index, there are currently 59 active state-based conflicts raging across the globe. This isn't just unrest. These are organized, lethal military engagements. In the last year alone, the human toll has been staggering. Between July 2024 and mid-2025, the International Institute for Strategic Studies recorded nearly 240,000 fatalities directly related to these violent events. If we look at the cumulative data for 2026, projections suggest that combined Russian and Ukrainian casualties could reach a haunting 2 million by the spring of this year. But it isn't just soldiers. The UN Human Rights Office recently reported a 40% surge in civilian deaths globally. In Gaza alone, children and women accounted for the vast majority of casualties, a statistic that the Armed Conflict Survey calls the most acute humanitarian catastrophe of our time. Who are the combatants? The lines are no longer just East versus West. They are a web of regional power struggles and internationalized civil wars. Imagine the Russo-Ukrainian war. On one side, the Russian Federation. On the other, Ukraine, backed by a NATO alliance that is increasingly strained. This remains the world's most consequential high-intensity war, defined by strategic deadlock and a total disregard for the human cost. Think about Sudan, a brutal civil war between the Sudanese Armed Forces, the SAF, and the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, the RSF. It is a war of starvation and displacement that has largely been ignored by a distracted world. How about Myanmar, a multi-front civil war where the military junta faces off against a mosaic of ethnic armed organizations and people's defense forces? And the Middle East, beyond the devastating war in Gaza between Israel and Hamas, we have the simmering shadow war turned hot. We must remember that all of this is taking place in addition to the ongoing high-stakes military actions by the United States and Israel against Iran and its proxies. From the Red Sea, where the Houthis challenge global shipping, to the precision strikes on the IRGC infrastructure, this is a separate, massive theater of war that threatens to ignite a total regional conflict at any given moment. War is not just paid for in blood, it is paid for in the treasure of nations. Money that could have fed every hungry mouth on planet Earth 10 times over. In 2025, global defense spending reached a staggering $2.63 trillion. That's a 9% jump from the previous year. To put that in perspective, the economic impact of violence on the global plane is now about $19.97 trillion in purchasing power parity. Listen to this quote from the United Nations report, "The Security We Need." This unprecedented military spending surge is occurring as global progress on sustainable development goals is falling short. We are diverting critical resources from the blueprint for a more equitable future to fund our own destruction. Where is the money going? The U.S. continues to lead, though domestic political shifts have made aid to Ukraine a volatile political variable. Secondly, Europe has ramped up spending by over 12% in real terms, with Germany alone spending over $100 billion to rearm. Russia is consuming over 7.3% of its entire GDP on the military, effectively turning its entire economy into a war machine. Why is the world at war with itself? The reasons are as old as time, yet fueled by new and dangerous technologies. First, the erosion of norms. As the World Economic Forum's Global Risks Report for 2026 notes, we are entering an era of multipolarity without multilateralism. The international rules that prevented major wars for 80 years are being ignored. Power now overrides law. Second, resource scarcity, from water disputes in the Horn of Africa to lithium mines in South America. The struggle for the engines of the future is sparking simmering conflicts. Identity and populism, internal polarization is being weaponized. Governments are turning to external wars to distract populations from internal failures. As Al Arabia recently observed in their 2026 outlook, the turn of the calendar does not erase geopolitical realities. The world system remains fragile, and long-standing rivalries are being tested to their absolute limits. Let's look at the final grim tally for the world at war with itself in 2026. In terms of lives, over 240,000 deaths per year in major combat, with millions more displaced. In terms of treasure, $2.6 trillion in annual military spending, $20 trillion in total economic impact. The number of confrontations, 59 active wars, plus the looming big one between the US and Israel and Iran. These numbers aren't just statistics. They are the sound of a civilization failing to communicate. Every dollar spent on a hypersonic missile is a dollar not spent on curing cancer or managing climate change. We are living through a decisive year, as many analysts call it. If 2026 is the year we test our limits, we must ask, what happens when we finally break our limits? I fear the cost of war is everything we have. Stay informed, stay skeptical, because in a world at war with itself, the first casualty is always the truth. That's the way it is this 9th day of March, 2026. I'm Joe LaRosie.